So this session is being recorded. So even if nagmi-meet tayo ngayon, this is considered synchronous. Parang nagkaklase tayo pero hindi face to face. But yun, boses na lang ang puhunan dito pati mga presentation. Okay, so by the way, ang update sa inyong ebook, wala jud. Wala pa reply ang publisher with regards to this book. With regards sa libro ninyo sa 319. The other books sa same publisher naman sa gihatag pero confusing po. QR code ang uban EPUB na wala na convert. Anyway, so yun may sasali pa. Okay, so I will share a file sa inyo para sa coverage sa unit learning outcomes B. Okay, so this section or this part of the whole sim dapat nasa first exam to pero hiniwalay na lang itong sa framework sa Philippine patriotism and nationalism. So it is basically the introduction to the history or the creation of the Philippine Islands. Yan. So kung namina mo sa inyong law subjects, I think they already discussed sa first coverage nila na yung about sa principles of the criminal law o yung the three principles: generality, territoriality, and prospectivity. Yun. So when we say the territorial limits of our country, it involves the land, of course, and its territories, all the waters around, between, and connecting the islands and those within, and also includes those waters around the Philippines within originally 12 nautical miles from the nearest shoreline and was extended ng United Nations to all nations 200 nautical miles from the nearest shoreline. So, yung 200 nautical miles is actually what we call EEZ or the exclusive economic zone. From the sea, the land, and the air, yan yun. Aerial, fluvial, and terrestrial land, yan yung territory ng Pilipinas. Yan, the whole airspace within it. So, that's part of the archipelagic doctrine. As we all know, Philippines is an archipelago. Sa mga hindi pa rin nakaalam hanggang ngayon, the Philippines was named after the reigning king nung panahon ng pagsasakop ng Espanyol dito sa atin, named after King Philip II ng Espanya. It was given by the Spanish explorer na sumunod kay Magellan, si Ruy Lopez de Villalobos noong 1542. So, after naming it, actually original name yun is Filipinas. based on the islands of Leyte and Samar na kung saan yun ang unang mga isla na nakita ni Magellan yung exploration nila. Yan, 'di ba sa Limasawa Island, that's between Leyte and the Bohol Bohol Sea. Anyway, so Filipinas eventually was further renamed as to complete the whole archipelago, Las Islas Filipinas. Yan. So location ng Philippines above the equator in the heart of Southeast Asia or even Asia itself or East Asia itself. Yan. Ang East Asia, yan yung mga bansang member countries ng Asian continent na maharap or connected sa Pacific Ocean. Yan, from Russia to South Korea, down to Japan, China, Taiwan, Philippines. Then, Papua New Guinea, yan, the Pacific Islands within. So, tayo ang sentro ng Southeast Asia. Yun, as we all know, Southeast Asia is composed of 10 countries. And Philippines is comprised of approximately 7,100 islands. Kanang uban dira mo lutaw ra na kung low tide. Kung high tide, then they will be hidden. Yan. Hindi na yan siya exactly 7,107 ngayon. Also, we are also one of those countries sa mundo na may pinakamahabang coastline. Of course, most of the places or the Philippine Islands, dahil archipelago tayo, there will be a long or a large number sa coastlines natin. Of course, may mga tao dyan na nakatira. And of course, as you all know, common knowledge, we are subdivided into three major island groups, Luzon being the largest and most populous. Second is Visayas, the smallest and the least populous, and Mindanao. Yan. Philippines has 17 regions, 81 provinces, and I don't know how many cities we have. Okay? So, according sa Article 4, Section 1 ng 1987 Constitution, there is this consideration ng kung sino ang Filipino or who is the Filipino or who is a Filipino. Yung qualifications. So before 1987 Constitution, there were two previous constitutions that were created sa bansa since we become a country governed by our own people. Yan. So the first constitution was the 1935 Constitution. Hindi kinonsider yung constitution na ginawa nung panahon nila Andres Bonifacio because we are not yet sovereign at that time. Wala pa tayong kalayaan or freedom. So, legally, it is considered na yung 1935 Constitution nung panahon ni Manuel Quezon was the first constitution of the Philippine government. By 1973, during the martial law period, President Ferdinand Marcos created a new constitution which, as he said, makes 1935 constitution obsolete. Well, tama naman. Because one of the characteristics of our law is to become prospective in nature. Yan. So, hindi pwede na stagnated or gapundor ang atong balaod. It evolves, it is being modified to cater the problems and the needs of that time. So, nung 20s hanggang early 80s, it was deemed na yung constitution nung 1973 was up to date to the problems of that time. Of course, merong ibang mga articles, mga programs or mga batas na kinary over from the previous constitution. That includes the revised penal code. So, from Article 4, Section 1 ng 1987 Constitution, the following citizens are the following. Yan. Nandiyan na yan sa harapan ninyo. First, those who are citizens of the Philippines at the time na na-adopt yung 1987 Constitution. So lahat ng mga Pilipino na pinanganak before that Constitution was approved, lahat yan sila na Pilipino noon is still carry over as Filipinos up to now. Next, those whose fathers and mothers are citizens of the Philippines. Yung biologically, yung parents mo, Pinoy, Filipino. So, carry over na yung magiging offspring, yung anak, Filipino. And also, those born before January 17, 1973, it includes most of our parents and yung lolo natin of Filipino mothers who elect Philippine citizenship upon reaching the age of majority. So the age of majority is yung age of legality. Yan, 18 years old sa ating bansa. Other countries have 16. Other countries have 21. So ayan. Next is those who are naturalized according to law. Ang best example niyan is si Andre Blatch ng yung basketball team Gilas Pilipinas. So during that time, around 2013, his naturalization as a Filipino was approved by Congress and of course was seconded by the Supreme Court. Na sige, may rason ang mga gustong maging Pilipino si Andre Blatch, so inapprove ng gobyerno, ng judiciary at ng legislation. He was naturalized even though na hindi siya pinanganak sa Pilipinas at hindi siya nagkaroon ng Filipino parents. He was naturalized. Yan. So in naturalization, there are different things that you need to consider. Yan. So, as you can see, sa baba, there are two generally recognized forms in acquiring Philippine citizenship. So, yung dalawa na yan na nakikita nyo, yan yung ina-adapt ng batas natin. Both of those. Actually, the three of them. First is jus soli, or jus soli, the right of soil. Legal principle that a person's nationality at birth is determined by the place of birth. For example, nung pinanganak tayo, nandito tayo sa Pilipinas pinanganak. At the same time, yung mga parents natin, nationality natin is deemed after our parents because we were born in the Philippines. Yung lugar na kung saan tayo pinanganak, yun ang naging basehan. Right of soil, jus soli. Next is jus sanguini or jus sanguinis. Yan, jus sanguinis sa mga maglisod o glitok. That means the right of blood. That's a legal principle adopted by the Philippines which yung nationality is determined by the parents, yung nationality ng parents. Best example niyan si Jordan Clarkson, 'di ba, yung Pilipinong basketball player or Filipino-American basketball player. Nganong naiuban nga PhilAm na other play na yun sa PBA, pati yung mga Pilipino na may commonly may nanay na Pilipino at foreign na papa or tatay. So right of blood, even though they are born outside the Philippines, but because meron silang biological parent na Filipino, then they would be considered Filipino. Technically speaking, Filipino sila. So, sa ngayong panahon, for example, kung sa US ka pinanganak with a Filipino mother and an American dad, you would have an American citizenship. Magkakaroon ka ng passport niyan na Amerikano. But also because you're a Filipino, then you are eligible to have a Philippine passport. Because even though you're not born in the Philippines, but because your parents is a Filipino or either of your parents is a Filipino, then you are a Filipino. Yan. You sanguine, right of blood. Next is Filipino by naturalization. Yung sinabi ko kanina, si Andre Blatch. Inadapt ang isang foreigner and giving him the privileges of a normal Filipino citizen. The requirement is, una, magpe-pledge siya ng allegiance, manunumpa siya ng loyalty sa Pilipinas. At tatanggalin niya yung loyalty at privileges sa former nation niya. So, yan yun. Filipino by naturalization. Okay? Questions? Questions? Okay, wala. Sige, let's proceed. Sa mga konsepto, mga teorya at mga pagsasaliksik which is related sa psikolohiyang Pilipino or Philippine psychology or the psychological status of a Filipino. It is not only concerned with psychology but also it touches the different cultures in our country and recognizes it, and somehow those indigenous cultures we have are being preserved and studied further. Yan. So it was emphasized in the book of Enriquez noong 1997, Psikolohiyang Pilipino. That's the title. So it might address some, if not most of the problems in our country. Yan. So as you can see below are some of the concepts which are considered the areas of the indigenous culture of Philippines or yung psikolohiyang Pilipino. Unang-una, lengguwahe, language. So, our language, main language natin is Tagalog. Pero, marami pa tayong tinatawag na ethno-linguistic na grupo. Of course, each of those groups use a certain dialect. Like for example, naiuban sa tuan na dili lang Tagalog ang nahibawan, kung dili pod siguro Bisaya o sabi natin Chabacano or Surigao nun or Maranao. Yan. Or Tausug ba na sila or Ilonggo ba na sila. Hindi lang yung national language natin na Tagalog ang alam, pati na rin yung local dialect. So each of those dialects are what consists of a local group. Yan. Northern Luzon, mga Ilocano yan. Central Luzon, Kapampangan yan. Kapampangan, mga Bulakenyo. Yan. Of course, sa Cordilleras, nandyan na yung mga Ifugao. Sa Metro Manila, mama na tong, actually, the melting pot. Lahat ng yan, mga OA, mga mahilig sa Tagalog, yan. Nag-English pa, yung mga Konyo. Yan. Southern Luzon, you have Batanggenyos. Yan. Yung kanilang mga pagsasalita. Nandyan rin sa Southern Luzon yung mga Bicolano. Yan, mga Oragon. Yan. As we go deeper sa Visayas, we have the Cebuano speaking dialect. Yan, Cebu, Bohol, Negros Oriental. Yung mga Waray, which is of Samar. Then, you have the Ilonggo sa Panay Island, pati Guimaras. Yan. Then sa Mindanao, napakarami. From the Muslim tribes, yan, mga Iranon, Maranao, mga Tausug, up to yung mga Chabacano sa Zamboanga, yung mga Cebuano dito sa Mindanao, mga Bisaya, and then there are those na mga Surigao nun. They somehow are languages which makes a certain group or a certain place be unique And of course, because we are Filipinos, we all know the main language, yung Tagalog. Yan. So, advantage na ang mga Amerikano, isa ra may mga or isa ra ka language ang ilahang nahibaw-an. Kita advantage to eh. Tulo, upat, siguro pito na or some others. Next is leisure. Yan, mga laro. So, leisure, not just the games, but also the toys. And yung mga simpleng palaro or yung parlor games. For example, pag birthday, anong nilalaro ng mga Filipinos commonly sa bukid or yung sa mga probinsya? 'Di ba? Merong palo sebo, yan yung ginagamit katong palayok ba na katong murag pinyata man na sa Mexicans kanang naipaso ba na unya pusposa na nimo unya lahi ang mapuspos na blindfold. Sunod, mga laruan. There are certain toys that Filipinos are having fun with it because it is first made in Philippines and next, it makes a leisure time more leisurable or kanang mag-e-enjoy ang modula. So, unsa bay mga laruan na nahibaw-an ninyo or mga toys na kabalo mo na made in the Philippines? Naa ba? Naa ba mo'y nahibaw ang mga dulaan na made in our country?
Luksong baka, sir.
Yes, unsa to?
Luksong baka.
Okay, luksong baka, usahay luksong bahay na. So anyway, pwede yon, yes. It is included. Pero sa palaro, yung laruan, we have yung kanang kasing na trumpo sa Tagalog. We also have other toys na gawang Pilipino din. Yan. Did you know na yung yoyo, kanang katong dulaan yoyo, was made by a Filipino. Filipino ang inventor ato. But sadly, during that time, hindi na engganyo ang common Filipinos nyon. Yan, Jolin. Na, apil pod na, pero basically, ngayon medyo commercialized na yan. Na, Shatong. Oh, Shatong, yes, yes. Shatong na one of our cultures din yung sabong. Na, di man na siya leisure ron kay daghan namang ni dato ana. So, other games, yung national sport natin. Ano sa national sport natin?
Arnie, sir.
Arnis ba?
Yes, sir.
National sport natin, bago na yun, no? Basketball na yun. Basketball, pinalit na yun. Kaninang 12 ng tanghali. Basketball na daw. Na. So, kidding aside, yun. For example, Arnis. Meron din yung sepak takraw. Yan, di ba? Larong native na Filipino made. The equipment somehow are Filipino made, di ba? For example, Arnis. Basically, ang puhunan mo lang dyan yung kahoy na Arnis. Made in the Philippines. Sepak takraw, di ba? Katong murag bola nila. Made in the Philippines. Na ang net pwede ra na cellophane or sa ba na tie box na. Anyway, so yun. Pero the thing with our leisure nowadays, especially ngayong generation, naging iba. Yun. Konti na lang ang naglalaro sa labas. Aside sa mga naghantak. Na aside sa mga kanang nagadulag habulan yan. Usahay mag-uyab habulan, usahay mag-asawa na habulin mo ko pero hindi na niya mahabol yan. Or pwede rin si ex na hinahabol si ex pero hindi na talaga. No chance yan. Anyway, so ang mga laro ngayon basically dominated by technology. Especially sa Philippine setting. mas maraming naglalaro ng ML or Mobile Legends sa Pilipinas compared to somehow one half of the world. Yan, kana Dota. Ako admit na ako sa una gadula pud ko. I was crazy with it to the point na dito na kumupuyo sa internetan. But of course, naisip ko din na kailangan din yung physical na laro. So then another sport which is not really Filipino but was easily adapted by Filipinos, yung basketball. Yan. Ang Pilipino may sariling identity sa basketball pero some other historians has always reminded us na bakit hindi natin tangkilikin yung sariling atin. Yan. So nalilimutan na yung iba, yung luksong baka, kasing, luthang, apil ng luthang. Ambot lang kung gi-appeal na sa Olympics, pero kung nanas Olympics, syaro gold medal ta. 'Di ba? Luthang. Yan. Anyway, so yun, leisure. May sarili tayong identity, may sarili tayong mga games, mga laruan na galing sa imahinasyon at pag-iisip ng Pilipino. Next is, this next factor is more known tayo dito to the rest of the world. Cuisine or mga pagkain. 'Di ba? Makakita ba kag photo sa US, sa States, doon sa amin sa States? Wala. Hindi kami kumakain ng puto sa States. Ang sa amin, steak. Yan, steak. Well done, medium, rare. Yan, fries. Yan, McDonald's. Yan, KFC. Yan, yan, paborito namin. Krispy Kreme. Yan. Paborito naming inumin, hindi lambanog. Coke. Yan, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Na isagol pa ni mong Gatorade, di ba? Pampalakas ng nerbiyos. So, yan yun. When it comes to food, Filipinos have our own delicacies, our own recipe. Ayan, adobo, sinigang, kare-kare, lauoy na, kung Bisaya jud sa mga taga Cotabato o Maguindanao, sinina, na seafoods. Yung seafoods natin, napakaano, 'di ba? Kanang tahong na daghan pa na sa pagaytong uban, tong gimukbang sa isa ka vlogger, tong ok-ok na, mga bugs, yun. May sarili tayong mga pagkain na some countries see it as exotic, but most of it sees our food as delicious, which is also one of the most delicious sa mundo. Yan, for example, lechon. No other country cooks pork product or even the whole pig itself like Filipinos. Diba? Dinuguan. Diba? For example, dool sa St. Peter, diba? Puneraryo niya at bang na dinuguan. Alam mo saan galing yon? Yan. Alam na. Diba? May dinuguan at bang sa St. Peter. Kami kaayo. Kanunay init, of course. Kanunay na nag-abot na, Anyway, biro lang yun. So, we have our own identity in cuisine. We have great cooks. Sunod, politics and law. So, ngayon, meron na kayong law subject. You might somehow understand where our law originated. Di ba? January 1, 1932, diyan nag-take effect ang Revised Penal Code sa Tagalog, Kodigo Penal ng Pilipinas. Yan. January 1, 1932. RA or Act number 3815. Yan. So, yun. We have our own laws, unique and tailor-made for our own setting, our own country. Sa politics naman, ganito yan. For example, sa Japan, Japanese people are shame-based. Dali kaayo na sila maulaw, especially in public. That's why there are some other politicians sa kanila na konting dungis lang sa pangalan, magre-resign or magpapakamatay. That's their silent politics. But also, kagaya dito sa Pilipinas, Arguably, garapalan, pabagaig nawong na we are not shame-based. We are fear-based. Bakit? Kung na panakot is mahuhuli ka or papatayin ka ng pulis. Yan. Fear-based. People nowadays are using threat or the use of fear to the people's minds para sumunod sa batas. Yan. The same goes with politicians. Yung mga politiko dito, yung iba hindi natatasi, takot sila sa pangalan na meron yung kalaban nila. Kasi baka babanggain sila. That's politics in Philippines. Unique to our own setting. And of course, yung politika natin does not cater much to those people na nasa taas, pero majority yung mga nasa baba. Okay? So that goes with politics and law. Next is religion. So sa religion, yan, yung mga ninuno natin or even some tribes today, naniniwala pa rin kay Anito or animism, the worshiping nature itself. Yan, or noon may mga babaylan, may mga ninuno, mga bulol, or of course yung common, si Bathala, the great provider ika nga. 'Di ba? Sa Muslim si Allah, sa mga Filipino tribes noon, and some hanggang ngayon si Bathala, the one who governs the heavens and earth. Yan. So may unique religion na hindi naman kasing layo sa ibang bansa sa history nila, but somehow it's unique to us. Na, for example, ang mga karaang Pilipino makakita ra nag murag punuan nga unique ang itsura, ampuan na na, himas-himaso na ng punuan. That's animism for you. That's a different religion. For example, ngayong panahon, marami ng relihiyon sa Pilipinas or sub-religions. For example, kung Kristiyano ka or Christianity in general, napakaraming klase sa Pilipinas. May Romano Katoliko, may Born Again, may Iglesia ni Cristo, may Mormons, yan, may Kibuloy, may El Shaddai, may napakarami. 'Di ba? For example, si Kibuloy. Yun, 'di ba? Sinabi niya siyang appointed son of God. Yun, considered as a religion whether we like it or not, 'di ba? So we have our own unique set of beliefs or religion. Yan. And of course, we are dominated by Christianity irregardless kung anong klase. The thing is, some in the Muslim side, yung iba hindi talaga lahat. May ibang mga Muslim na tinitake to another level. Yung mga tinatawag sa terrorism na extremist. Yung baluktot ang paniniwala kay Allah at sa Quran. Yan yung mga terorista. Yung mga normal na Muslim, halos pareho lang yan sa Christianity. They still follow Allah or God. Eh, yung mga extremism or extremists, they follow Allah but twisted ang translation. Napatayin daw lahat ng hindi naniniwala kay Allah. Hindi naman siguro sinabi ni Allah yan. Wa man po nag-iingon ni Kibuloy. Diba? Niingon bang appointed son of God na patyon ang mga dili mo ila kay Kibuloy? Diba? Hindi. Yan. Unique set of religion. Sunod, literature and film. Sa literature, marami tayong magagaling na mga manunulat. In film, we have also iconic actors and actresses recognized by history and art culture. For example, hanggang ngayon, mga pelikula ni Fernando po na mas matanda pa sa atin, pinapalabas hanggang ngayon. Problema, wala ng ABS. Yan. Or other Tagalog movies of the past generations. Siguro dahil sa galing ng pag-arte ng mga artista nila, pinapalabas hanggang ngayon. In some forms. Next is medicine. Marami tayong mga magagaling na doktor, but in history or in our culture, herbal medicine is the way. Yan. Herbal medicine, the use of the nature's products in curing illnesses, and of course, yung hilot, 'di ba? Massage or hilot. Lay ang hilot sa Pilipinas, ang uban ana na sikmahan ka or na, lawayan ka, duraan ka na. Pero somehow, it's their form of hilot. It's their form of curing people. Yun, sa medicine. Sunod, music and arts. Yan. Sarong Banggi, are you familiar with it? I'm not even familiar with that. Dandansoy, I've just heard it noon. Music and arts. Yan, pero may sarili tayong musika. Of course, from the past, may ibang klase tayong music nung mga ninuno natin. At sa ngayong modern na panahon, meron tayong tinatawag na OPM or Original Filipino or Original Pinoy Music. Yung Pinoy na makasabay sa agos ng panahon. Yan. Next is ritual and ceremonies. Meron tayo niyan, napakarami. Just like every country and its culture, di ba? May uban na mutuo sa agimat kana mga lucky charm sa ilang tanaw. Yan, for example, lucky charm nila ang picture sa ilang uyab, butang wallet, di ba? Malay mo ang hindi pera yung papasok diyan, yung babae mismo. Anyway, so yun, may mga lucky charms, mga paniniwala or shall we say mga beliefs and superstitions ng Pilipino, 'di ba? For example, kung malakas ang ulan, ang paniniwala noon ng iba, may kinakasal na mga tikbalang. What's the relationship ata niyan? I don't know how they create it, but yun yung kanilang sa tingin nila noon ritual. And of course, yung gayuma, 'di ba? Sumikat yan na kanta, 'di ba? Gayuma. More like trickery or cunning. Anyway, let's proceed next. So yun, those are just some of the factors sa psikolohiyang Pilipino according sa libro ni Enriquez. So, upon writing his book, Enriquez and his researchers made different styles and patterns of gathering data or their research. Yan yun. So, napakarami. For example, sa language, napakaraming lugar ang pinuntahan nila para malaman ano bang gamit nila sa pagsusulat, pananalita at pagbabahagi ng kanilang lingwahe. Diba? For example, may research din noon, actually this is already history, pero yung pagsusulat ng baybayin, yan. Hindi yan masyado sumikat nung nirelease ni Enriquez ang Psikolohiyang Pilipino. Pero tingnan mo ngayon, maraming gusto na ibalik ang baybayin sa common na Filipino setting. Yan. Okay, next. Si Rogelio Pepwa, yan, her own book, Psikolohiyang Pilipino, Teorya, Metodo at Gamit, she enumerated other approaches in data gathering. For example, she used those qualities of Filipino families. Yan. Qualities of a Filipino. Like pagkapa-kapa or grouping na kapa-kapa. Mga ditong pangalan dyan sa kapa, no? Diba? Kapa means group sa Old Tagalog. Yan. Anyway, so of course, she asked questions together with her research team. Pagtatanong-tanong, pagkikipagkwentuhan, that's eliciting information or storytelling. Yan, pakikipanuluyan or that is conducting research at the same time living with those people you are researching. Yan. For example, tumira ka kasama ng mga terorista. Siguro pwede ganun. Yan. You want to research about terrorism? Tumira ka kasama ng terorista. Or for example, you want to know the language of ITAS. So, makikipagtuluyan ka or tumutuloy ka sa kung saan sila nanunuluyan. Pakikiramdam, shared sensitivity, yan, pakikialam, pakikilahok. For example, sa leisure time, unsa ba'y mga pampalipas oras sa mga tribong ata na some others would say, magbuhat na sila balay o magbuhat sila bata na bahay kubo, di ba? Anyway, so those are just some, if not all, of those enumerated sa libro ni Rogelia Pepwa. Okay? Hello? Are there any questions? May mga questions pa ba tayo? Okay, so kung walang questions, I think I need to consume na lang the rest of the 7 minutes na natitira. Time check sa akin, it's 4:22. Sige, last ball na to. Okay, sunod, language. Sinabi niyan sa libro ni Enriquez, yun sa Psikolohiyang Pilipino. Language is a major tool in order to know the culture and history of a certain group, especially dito sa Pilipinas. Yan. So, the use of the Filipino language and its development is basically what created into the current Philippine language. Yung mga lengguwahe natin, from the natives speaking earlier before Spanish invasion or colonization, which is part of what we call yun, indigenization. Kumbaga, ang researchers nung panahon, nagsaliksik sila sa mismong kultura. And how did they do it? Tumira sila kasama ng mga tribo. Inalam nila paano namuhay noon. So that is still part of indigenization. Second, is native languages are as important or an important source of indigenous constructs. So that's the same with everything else in this country and the rest of the Asian country. Kasi napakadaming mga tribo, mga kultura ang lumago, and each language that they use are key in building their communities. It is key in preserving and recognizing their culture. And of course, kagaya ng lahat ng bagay, language of those natives and the form of communication is constantly developing. For example, ang Tagalog na language ngayon ay combination ng Tagalog before Spanish colonization, during Spanish colonization, the current and the previous American influence, and of course, Japanese influence. Yan, for example, ang anong Tagalog ng mesa or ng table, 'di ba? La mesa, mesa or la mesa. That's basically the Spanish word. Yan, la mesa or the table. Silya. Ang silya natin is S, nagsugod. Pero sa Spanish, it's different with the same connotation. Yan. Also, for example, ano sabay Tagalog sa lingkuranan?
Salumpwet, sir.
Yun. Salumpwet. Ngayon, upuan. Because they deemed that yung salumpwet masyadong mataas at masyadong iba sa pandinig ng Pilipino sa modern period. So, ginamit nila upuan. Kasi yung from the old word or old Filipino word na upo, which means Pero originally, it's salong-puwet. Sinasalo yung puwet mo. Anong Tagalog ng brief or brief? Unsay Tagalog ana?
Salawal, sir.
That's in general kasi pwede din yan na salawal ng pambabae. Di ba, murag, that is undergarments kung English or underwear in general. May uban siguro salong, wala naman siguro salong itlog, no? 'Di ba? Anyway, so yun. Ang development ng ating language involves what happened to our country, 'di ba? Makita din natin yan sa lengguwahe natin. Maraming mga lengguwaheng considered Filipino language ngayon na nanggaling sa mga bansa na sumakop sa atin. And of course, na-carry over din yung mga old Filipino words from those natives. Okay? Next, pagkataong Pilipino or Filipino personhood. We are known to have our own personality. And of course, yung Filipino personhood natin is summed up with these core values. Please take note of these three core values. Yan. That is originally sa libro ni Virgilio Enriquez, yung pakikipagkapwa-tao, yung number one. Or of course, yung pag-recognize at pag-iintindi sa kapwa. Yan. As we all know, no man is an island. Everyone would always depend on someone. Yan. So the same goes nung mga ninuno natin nauna sa atin na lumaban sa mga sumakop sa atin. They were united because hindi lang pansarili ang iniisip nila, kundi ang kapwa rin nila. Sunod, pakiramdam. This would be taught puhon, especially sa training. Yan, law enforcement training. Dapat pakiramdaman mo yung iba, hindi lang sarili mo. And of course, dapat siguro maging sensitive ka or malalim yung pakiramdam mo sa ibang tao at sa kapaligiran mo. Okay? And the third one is kagandahang loob. Yung kagandahang loob, yan, or being kind-hearted, yan, would then develop to what is now known sa buong mundo about Filipinos na tayo ay hospitable. Diba? Kung may bisita, maganda ang saloobin natin para sa kanila. Kasi bisita, nirerespeto natin sila, tinatrato natin silang ng magalang. So, ayun. Yan yun. And lastly, I would show to you the value system of Philippine psychology. Yan yung sa libro ni Enriquez. Yan yun. So, I hope you can read your Sims. Yan, basahin nyo ng maigi because basically the exam or your activities are mostly, if not all of it, are just revolving on the topics. Yan, basahin nyo rin yung syllabus para mahimong guide pod ninyo. And within the week, I would be showing already the assignments. Yan. So, are there any questions? Questions? Wala na. So, thank you. Time check di ay sakto. 4:30 na sa akin. So, salamat sa pakikinig. And also, pasensya na kay ang inyong ebook murag ambot sa langit kung asa nagidala. So, wala dyo'y gihatag sa mo ang link. I don't know if other professors have the link sa ebook. Na, siguro igura mo dawat ang publisher og kwarta wa dyo'y gibalik. Anyway, so we'll just end our discussion here. Thank you again. Good afternoon sa inyo ha. And yun, stay safe. Mabuhay tayo kung kailan natin gusto.
Thank you, sir.